So, today might be a day you might want to take a note or two. We're going to be discussing kind of globally what we're going to be about for the whole semester. Going to lay down some primary principles and just get our heads thinking in the direction that I want us to go in the semester from the broadest stroke view. So, before I do that, does anyone have any questions at all about anything before we jump in? Anything that's like administrative that we need to play with?
On the website, on the online.weber, it says the course is not available yet. Is that just for me, or?
When did you check it?
This morning. I checked it this morning.
This morning? Yeah. Not to worry. Really? This morning you checked?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll check it after. No big deal, and I'll get it cranking today for sure.
Okay.
Thanks for reminding me. I thought I'd put this one up, but not a big deal.
Okay.
Anything else that's administrative? So, all right. When I'm not a big PowerPoint fan at all, but I'm going to play with PowerPoint a little bit today, and because it's nicely set up how I set this up. And I want to just kind of create a class discussion around this topic. How does that look for you, Susan? So let's start with this question and just kind of raise your hand. And when I say the word wellness, and it's kind of like love, so many different appropriate answers. When I say the word wellness, if you're doing word association, what immediately comes into your mind? Balance? Healthy. Proper nutrition? Is that what you said? What else? Whole. Like W-H-O-L-E, not H-O-L-E. Whole. Good. What else? What other comes?
Happiness.
Happiness. Really? With wellness? Happiness? Okay.
So well, things are good.
Gotcha. Anything else? Go ahead.
Healthy relationships.
Relationships. So there's more than just... Because when you used to think... Well, tell me what were you thinking? Oh, supplements. See, when you used to think of the word health, the term health, prior to about, the mid-70s, meant what? Not sick, exactly. The absence of disease is what health was. And then a guy by the name of Dunn, D-U-N-N, came along and he said, health is more than just the absence of disease. And then he went on to describe, it was a groundbreaking article that he wrote in one of the major health journals that said, there's more to it than just not being sick, not being in the hospital. So let's kind of see what we know, kind of based on what you guys were said, because all of those were great. I hope I can make this work right. First of all, I'm going to assume, we're going to function with the assumption, and you don't have to like make the cute little diagram, and just kind of know what we're saying. We're going to function with the assumption that we are an integration of mind, body, and spirit. And you'll notice that the way I made this, the body's the smallest part, the spirit is the largest part. We don't have any way to measure that. We don't have instruments that can say, well, your spirit is kind of low today or whatever. Like we do blood pressure is too high. We can't measure those things. But we're still going to function, and we're still going to assume that that's who we are at a deeper level, and is as much, if not more, a part of wellness as kind of what you are saying, because when you talk about nutrition, talk about supplements, that's focused primarily here, a little bit here, tiny bit here. They're all connected. But now, let me ask you this question. It's an interesting question. The first class that I ever took that was even remotely like this, because I've never been in a class like this one in all of my years in psychology and health promotion and health education and I don't know how many years of schooling, then let me ask you if you have you ever taken a class that has its focus on your spirit? I'm not talking about religion, I'm talking about your essence, your nature. Have you taken any classes on that?
Like that was the only focus?
Or that you even played with it at all? Maybe in some philosophy class, but have you?
Just a meditation course.
Oh, so you took a meditation course. So that might be one that would qualify it for that. Any others that you can think of? Definitely. So certainly yoga and meditation has that. But I mean, those are weird classes. So I'm talking about traditional academic classes. Or if you went over, how many in here are going to nursing? So a few of you are. Do you ever take any classes that focus on this? Where you say, we're going to deal with a person's spirit today. And we're going to see how we analyze how their spirit's doing, like you would analyzing blood sugar levels. There's not anything like that, is there? And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. That's where we are. Well, in this class, this is the reality of this class, is we're going to play with who we are as a being, our essence. As much as, if not more than, the mind and body. Okay? And wellness encompasses all of these. Okay. Now, we also, and this is a little bit more familiar to some of us, we see that there's primarily 5 dimensions of us. There might be others that some people want to add, but primarily we're confident in this idea that we have 5 dimensions, that there are 5 components of us: the physical, spiritual, emotional, social, and intellectual. And most people who write about this, if you went to the Coveys, they might combine emotional, intellectual, or some other thing. But this is these are our primary areas of us that we'll be working with. Now, which of these areas is the most obvious? Which is the most easy to detect whether a person is doing well or not? Yeah, physical, right? It's an easy thing to say, well, I'm going to go in for my check. You go into the doctor, and she or he does a physical assessment of you. Right? What do you notice about this this picture right here, this Venn diagram, what does it imply? So what would that mean? If they're all intertwining, what does that mean?
If one's being affected, the others are gonna, it's like the domino effect. Like if something's wrong physical, then it's gonna affect your emotional, intellectual, spiritual, and social.
So it's not like your car, where you got a radiator problem, you fix the radiator and your car works fine, right? You got a flat tire, you don't have to look in your oil pan to see how the oil's doing to make sure that your car, there's no connection between the two. You fix your tire. And really, medical science, the medical world still treats us, to a certain extent, like a car. If you have a hormonal problem, or let's say you have a blood sugar problem, and you go to the doctor and he says, well, you've got a blood sugar problem. What is their common remedy for that? What is their common focus of how to deal with it? Some kind of, who said, some medication to do what?
That particular problem.
Yeah. Is it possible that that problem, the blood sugar problem, might be caused by something else that has nothing to do with seemingly blood sugar? I mean, when we play with stress, stress as a physiological response affects every single system in the body. Every tissue, every organ in the body is getting affected by the physiological or the psychological fight or flight response. But the medical world still says, well, your problem's here, so I'm going to deal with that symptom. Most of the conditions that we have are symptoms. In my world, in our world of mind-body wellness, I'm convinced that there are no disconnected parts. That everything, like Maggie appropriately said, everything absolutely affects everything else, and not only just physically, but spiritually, socially. Have you ever just been okay, let's use depression, because that's such a common one. What is the best remedy for depression?
Talking from personal.
You've been there.
Yeah. Mine's exercise.
Exercise. Now that doesn't have anything to do with, I feel just sucky bad. I don't want to even get out of bed. Depression. So I got to go exercise to feel better?
It's more like a
That doesn't make any
preventative.
sense.
It's more preventative, I guess, because if you are exercising, you don't reach that incredibly low. But if, say, you do reach that low, and I'm aware of it, then I know that it's because I haven't been exercising. So it might take a day or two to get myself back to the gym or whatever.
Yeah.
But I actually had a really neat doctor as far as this goes. He let me with my antidepressant medicine, like, depending on what I need daily. My prescription's 10 milligrams, which is incredibly low. Nobody usually goes that low, to 30 milligrams a day. And depending on what I feel my body needs, I get to decide.
Oh.
So if
Yeah.
I am having, maybe it is, I need an extra boost or whatever, even though so emotionally, physically, I've been exercising or doing anything I need to do. If I still hit that wall or whatever, then I can spike it up with the medication as a last resort.
So you feel it, so there's some your own control based on how you're feeling. So
So I try like the exercise and everything first to get me up.
Okay.
And then I don't use it as a first, like you're saying, a lot of times we go in and they just go, here's your medication.
okay,
This is
good,
the answer.
good. Interesting study or interesting research, recent research has shown that physical exercise is as effective as depression medication for moving you from depressed to not so depressed. That's really interesting. But the point is, you got a problem going on that's seemingly over here, but this affects it. And when you're really depressed, is this really happening for you? Are you like, man, I'm going out tonight and we're going to have some, I just got to go be with my friends and have a blast. It affects everything. And, I mean, that's just one little thing. They're all that way. Any of you have ever been injured? You've been injured. Does that, I mean, what did you hurt? Ah. Did that affect any of these other areas? Did you feel like you were on top of the world? Did you feel like entertaining company? Did you feel happy? Who was it? Are happy? No. And that's a physical, wait, what did you say was? Meniscus, yeah. Very physical. That affects everything. So, does that make sense to everyone? I think we labored that point enough. So, wellness, this is my definition. I'm not saying this is the definition, but this is the definition that I like, is the ability to function optimally and actually doing that to some extent in each of those dimensions. So, social, intellectual, physical, spiritual. Now, the question is, what would that look like? And let's just spend a minute going through each of these areas. And if you were to describe what would be characteristics of a person who is functioning, and these might seem like, okay, we're getting very academic here, but I want us to have a clear picture of where we're going. So what would you say are characteristics of a person who is functioning optimally in the physical world? What might that look like? The person who is at his or her peak, or at his or her actualized level. What's that?
Like an Olympian?
Okay, well, I mean for just you and me kind of people. Like, not the super athlete, but just for you and me, what would that look like to be functioning optimally in the physical domain? What do you think, Taylor?
You can do tasks and not get tired.
Okay, not getting overly fatigued. Good. When you do normal things.
We're trim and strong, everything's sort of physically.
Okay, so muscle work's happening. Not too much extra baggage happening. Okay, what other immediate things? This is the most obvious one. I mean, this is why we go to the doctor. I mean, this is what we get checked when we go to the doctor, is this. Okay, so you sleep well, definitely. What else? So not diseases, not the presence of the manifestation of diseases. Everyone's got bugs and stuff going on inside of us. But they're not in a condition where they're getting the upper hand on our immune system. Our immune system is handling them. Maggie?
The good, like got a good BMI, good cholesterol, good blood pressure. Maybe not exactly like perfect, but at least in the healthy range.
Okay, so you're up in the... Has anyone ever had their BMI checked? You hate the BMI, don't you? I hate it too. Whenever I get my BMI checked, does everyone understand the BMI? Why do they test the BMI?
Well, it's your body mass index, and I'm never in my category either. But as far as like body percent fat, I guess, is more what I would go to.
That's a better one.
Yeah, because, I don't know, the BMI, I think some people fit into it really well, and then there's others who don't.
Who especially doesn't?
Athletes.
Athletes, yeah. Because they're...
Yeah.
And it measures weight. Yeah, we're in the obese category every time. I'm in the overweight, he's in the obese, and he's not. So there's a question there. So yeah, body fat percentage a better marker.
I worked at this health clinic, and we would do an electro thing that measures muscle versus fat. And my whole life I thought I was huge obese, and then I did that, and I was actually low end of it, low body fat.
And you loved that machine, didn't you? That's why I never step on the scales. We'll talk about weight in an upcoming day, but I never step on the scales because I know, geez, that's 25 pounds more than I weighed when I was in 9th grade. And which is how tall I was. I mean, in 9th grade, I was this tall. And it looks like I've ballooned. Now, when I was 19 or 20, I did balloon, but I'm tried to not be there anymore, and I threw out the scales a long time ago. What other measures do we look at? That's the physical.
I think the posture is
Oh, that's interesting. So how you're presenting yourself. Okay, good. Now think, I know this word is a hard one for us. But I still want to throw it out here. See, let me explain one thing here to you. Here's a little spectrum. And on this end we have death. Okay? Now on this end we have functioning optimally. Okay? And then as we move this direction, we have diseases, so chronic conditions, sickness. Somewhere around here we have mediocrity, about there. Now here's an interesting question. The medical world, and I'm not believe me, I'm not trying to be anti-medical world. It's just the reality of this paradigm in which we find ourselves. Bless you, this is what's happening. 99 cents out of every healthcare dollar goes to this right here. Let's see, that's not a very good what I was trying to make. Let's see. How do you do that? 99 cents. I'm the worst artist of anyone I know. 99 cents out of every dollar goes to here. Up here we have prevention. We have, wellness kind of over here, and functioning at our peak at that end. What's wrong with this picture? What do you think?
Well, I personally don't believe that death is the opposite of optimal life. I don't think it should be a measurement of, first of all.
Oh, so you're saying we should take this part off?
Yeah.
So that's a different deal altogether and stay with just chronic. Okay, I can deal with that. But most people die from these. The statistic is 1 out of 2 people die from heart disease. I don't know how this works, but 1 out of 3 people dies from cancer. I don't know how that math works. 1 out of 2 and then 1 out of 3. That's more than 100%. But that's how many people? 1,700 people in America died today from heart disease. 1,700. Why is that not in the news? Why didn't we hear that on the front page? 1,700 more people died today. And the same number from cancer. Why is that not getting the publicity that one person falls in a river and we read about it for a week?
It's just how our culture is. Everyone's just used to treating the disease.
Just the way things are, right? Yeah. And that's a matter of course that death is the next step after you've been, and we seem to be okay with that. We've accepted that reality. In the medical world, the drug companies, they're okay with it too.
Well, I was just thinking it's not good publicity or media for a hospital or a surgeon or an insurance company. If you want to teach people to be preventative, you're gonna kill this whole machine that's making millions of dollars.
Billions.
Us.
Yes, exactly. You're exactly right. And again, I'm alive because of antibiotics. I mean, a lot of us in here have had life-threatening situations where if it weren't for the surgeon who could take care of us, you know, I had my appendix rupture when I was in graduate school, and really I was supposed to have died. They said, there's no way this kid's going to live through this. And fortunately for a great doctor who understood how to get that out of there and how to also apply antibiotics that would take care of the poison that happened afterwards, I'm alive or else I'm dead 20 years ago. So I love the fact that we have that. I absolutely love it. But I'm in the same light, I'm not going to go to a herbalist when I've got the appendix that's rupturing. I'm not going to go to a crystal healer or a energy therapist for my ruptured appendix. So it's a good thing that we do have that, because when your mom's having her heart attack, we want to spend $100,000 on the fix, don't we? We want that. Maggie?
I was just going to say, with her comment, to change would be, it's just going to take forever. Not saying I'm opposed, I would love to see the change. But to get people to start being preventative, you're not going to change the 99 cent out of the whole dollar that's being spent on every dollar in medical care, because until people do start taking the necessary needs to prevent and cause wellness in their own, the disease and sickness is going to continue to increase. So without decreasing that, where's the money going to come from in that dollar for prevention and wellness? So I think that's, you know, definitely where we come in, but thinking outside the box to decrease the amount of money needed to be spent on the disease and sickness, because you can't stop treating that.
No,
that's what needs
certainly
to be
not
happening. But to get more money over to the prevention and wellness side.
Yeah, and that's probably one of the biggest challenges that we who love this world of being up here have, is trying to, come on, pay. We're doing some wellness coaching. I'll talk to you guys a little bit about this, that we've started up a class called Wellness Coaching, and where you do work one-on-one with people in this kind of thing right here, this area here, and there's no money to support it. The insurance companies won't support it yet, but there's movement going that way. Now, the obvious question, the obvious answer is, this is smarter. Yes, prevention is smarter.
It always costs less. They may not think that,
Yeah.
but it really does always cost less.
Yeah. Both in time and money. Now, my interest when I first well, it happened actually as a result of my getting huge when I was 19 and 20. I became very interested in nutrition, and then I started getting interested in exercise and as a thing to do besides just playing basketball or playing football or frisbee football or whatever, all the things that we love to do when we're young. But, you know, actually going for a jog. 30 years ago, nobody went for jogs. You know, nobody worked out like that. But I started seeing that as soon as I started doing that, we went to aerobics classes and just did the dumbest things you could ever, unbelievable, pounding things. People had shin splints every other day. Why do I hurt? We're doing the wrong stuff. Anyway, as soon as I started learning about this, and I actually took one of the classes that I took when I was in my health promotion master's degree program, is I thought, you know, this fascinates me more than anything else as a profession. And so I've spent 30 years really trying to learn about what's going on up here. I love that people spend their time and effort here. There's not very many of us who are spending our time up here. But that's an area that I've just found so fascinating because there is so much that helps us to move up here into this functioning optimally world. There's so much. And we in our wellness coaching class the other night, there was one lady, she's a yoga instructor, and she was telling us about this, she called it mind-body bridging. And I had never heard of that before. And she said, oh, it's a new therapeutic method that helps people move forward in pretty powerful ways. And it was like, I thought I'd heard of everything. And sure enough, more stuff. So it's an exciting direction to be focusing on. There's not a lot of money happening there. There's not a lot of focus happening there because of exactly what you guys were saying. Our paradigm says, let's fix the problem. Okay? Does that make sense? Is everyone pretty understanding of that? So, okay, what about functioning optimally, intellectually? What would that look like? We don't often think of that. You know, what does that have to do with? So you can't control your greatest predictor of how long you live. Unless they died from an accident of some kind, hit by a car, that doesn't count. But if they died of a normal, ongoing life in their 90s, your likelihood of living to your 90s is a lot higher than if they would have died living a normal age into their 70s.
Even if they were like sick? Like,
Yeah, well-
You know what I mean? Like if they were like
Like-
overweight and had,
Still.
whatever, all of these things.
Yeah.
So what happens if on one side of the family you have a grandfather that dies at like 45 and a grandmother that dies at 90? On the other side of the family, one dies at 60. And
So just average those out. That's your number. I don't know. They have those things online now, that you can measure. You can answer a whole bunch of questions and it'll say how old you'll be when you'll die. Have you seen those? No. You've done those? How old were you?
It made me older. It really did.
A lot older than.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was supposed to be. I'm going to die when I'm 119. It said.
Oh my
I
goodness.
thought I don't want to live that long. Did you have a?
Yeah, I just wondered how that was applicable to the youngest generation of this point. Because if I understand correctly, aren't they the first generation that will live shorter than their parents?
Live shorter? I don't know about that. I know that there's the belief that they're going to fare less well as far as economically, but I have not heard that one. Maybe if that's the case, I don't know. That's interesting. I don't know.
I was going to say, I actually have heard that based on
Yeah?
how much we get, our kids exercise, the foods that we feed them, and because a lot of times, like my parents, they grew their gardens and things like that.
Mhm.
Now we eat fast food, and I have heard that study that
That's interesting.
our children's lifespans are going to be shorter because of our society's changing.
Very well could be. We're definitely headed in the wrong direction and when we get into the nutrition thing on next week, we'll play with those very ideas. But the point about the intellectual is this is super important for our longevity, how long we'll live. And living well intellectually involves staying, sharp. Keep continuing to learn. People who do well in this are people who continue. Education doesn't end when you graduate from high school or college. Learning is a lifelong endeavor. Emotionally, what would that look like? For functioning optimally. What? You're smiling all the time? I have this person in my neighborhood who, she's excruciatingly positive. But underneath there's a real, she's not very happy, but she's always, everything's okay. And she's not okay. When Maslow was studying self-actualized people, y'all remember the Abraham Maslow and his hierarchy of needs, and he went around the world and he tried to find the most psychologically healthy people in the world. And he said, there are a few. He said, I could count on my hands the number of people who were all the time psychologically or self-actualized. But he said, one of the characteristics of people who are self-actualized is they don't have highs and they don't have lows. They're kind of pretty accepting of themselves, and they're pretty, in a positive state, but not like, life's so great and I just love being alive and I'm going to go do stuff today. And they're okay, but they're also rarely, if ever, I hate life, and I hate my dog. I hate everything. They're just kind of at a nice homeostasis level. I saw a hand over, yes.
I think in order to be emotionally optimal, you have to be able to maintain that flow state, but then also be able to express your emotions.
Mhm.
Then not, when you don't, it just bottles up in that poor person that it's
Yeah.
out on.
Feelings buried alive, never die kind of idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we will play a lot with this world. We'll play 1 2 or 3 days in this world, this domain. We'll play some in this domain. We'll play a lot in these 2 domains. We'll play a little bit in that one in this semester. Socially, well, I want to get to the rest of this. I think what would you say for the spiritual realm? What would that mean to be functioning optimally at a spiritual level, or in the spiritual domain?
Not always searching for something to fill that need. I guess if you've found what helps you.
Kind of a contentedness?
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, it's not bad to like be always searching, but to be looking like you're missing something and feeling like you just don't have anything and you're alone. I don't really know exactly how to explain it, but if you've found peace spiritually with whatever it is that you find, then I think you're functioning optimally.
So see if I'm hearing you right, is you have a clear sense of your values and you're living according to those, not trying to go out there and figure out.
New, like maybe this will be it for me, or maybe this will be it, and doing something completely over here and then over here and then, because you're never gonna.
Some of you are probably too young to have experienced this, but I have many friends who have libraries and libraries of the next self-help book. Let me try Tony Robbins this week. Let me try, Andrew Carnegie, and now let me try all of these gurus and do their system for a couple of weeks. It's like diets, really, where they've gone to the extreme. And I think what you're saying is they've set their values and they're finally, yes, this is what I'm living by, and I am at peace about that. What else?
I just think sometimes we live in that green grass syndrome world where we're always looking for the greener grass instead of being satisfied with where you're at.
Excellent.
Happy with your surroundings.
Oh, what a great point. Yeah, that was one of the things that Maslow found, was that people who were self-actualized were very accepting of themselves and where they are. They were like, yeah, it was Emerson or Thoreau, one of the two, who said, there is no other island, there is no other, this is it.
Oh, and I guess to add to what Maggie was saying, I think even if we're not continually searching, but that we still have questions or that we still contemplate on things that we may not be fully sure of, just being content with, I may not know everything, or I may not be at a state of perfection.
Yeah.
But being content and accepting that as part of.
And at the same time, I think one of the major characteristics of a person who's living spiritually at their higher levels is they are also open. They haven't closed the door and said, that's it. There ain't nothing else for me to learn. I've met my growth potential. I don't think there is an end to that potential.
I was going to add that for me it's an awareness and a connection to the truth of who I am, instead of to recognize spiritually who I am beneath all the physical, the intellectual, the emotional, and the social. And when I'm there, I'm better in all those other areas.
Yeah. When you close your eyes and ask yourself what's going on, what do you notice? When you close your eyes, not to fall asleep, but to just kind of tune into who you are. Is it chaos or is it peace? Is it happiness or is it disruption? When you close your eyes and go, what's happening now? Are you good? A lot of people, they don't even want to do that. They don't want to even close their eyes because that's a scary place.
I think just kind of along the same lines that you're saying, I think it goes back to that kind of graph you had of the 3 circles and how the spirit encompasses mind and body. I think part of being spiritually healthy or being functioning optimally is being aware of the other realms of you, of your physical, your intellectual, your emotional, and your social. Because I don't think it's realistic to assume that you can have wellness in all of those at the same level at all the time.
Right.
I think maybe there's a
It's a
few
good
pieces
point.
in your life where you can, but sometimes you're doing better physically than you are doing socially, and vice versa, or whatever. And so I think being healthy spiritually is taking in tune of, okay, where do I need to work on? What needs a little bit more focus right
Good.
now than maybe another? And
Good.
aware of those things, I think, helps you be aware of a deeper sense of yourself because you're aware of all the different sides of
Beautiful.
yourself.
That's beautiful. Being able to self-analyze, self-assess on all of those levels and taking stock and going, okay, which ones do I need to work on now? How's this Venn diagram shaping for me? Is one of those bubbles too small? That's an excellent thought. Okay, so the question that I've always had when I was growing up and even to now when I'm my age, where are models? Where are the people that I can look at? And I haven't found a whole lot who are doing. It's like Maslow said, there aren't very many people who they're functioning at their peak all the time. But I still want to know, are there people who do? You know, when somebody is functioning at his peak at the physical level, like the triathlete or I want to know what he's doing. Success leaves clues. Okay. Now, I don't think we have models, and you don't need to write this down. Just we don't really know how to get there because each of these dimensions, it's like a car. Well, the psychologist works on this part. The physician works on this part. The social psychologist works on the relationships part, and the marriage counselor works on the relationships part. I mean, there's no cohesion, there's not a lot of cohesion in there. So the question is, and this is what I want to leave you with, and just kind of hang on for just a second because I want to let these questions linger in your minds. Because it's a question kind of exactly what you're saying. These are the kind of questions that she's asking. What's your name?
Brianne.
Brianne. What Brianne's asking us to ask ourselves is, how are we doing? Is this even a possibility for us? I mean, I know plenty of people who say, oh, I'm too old. I'm too whatever. They put whatever comes after that. I'm too something. Some belief is getting in their way. And then, if your health behavior continues to be what it has been, what will be your outcome? In other words, what are you... Because the way we get to wellness is not by thinking about it. It comes through behaviors. That I know for sure. And so our behaviors tell us, you know, the direction we're going in. And if we continue to do what we're doing, and this was the question that somebody gave to me 25 years ago. He said, if you continue to do the things you're doing right now, will things be better or worse for you in 5 years, 10 years? What about 50 years? And so here's the comment that I want to make to us that kind of gets us motivated that this is within all of our capability. First, nothing changes unless you make a conscious and lasting decision. In other words, it has to be entirely up to you. No one's holding your hand. No one's living in your form. You're the only one that's living in your form. It's you and nobody else. Nobody else cares. They're too busy caring about their own stuff. So it's up to you. Do you want it? Do you want to stay on this side of that mediocrity line? When I lived in West Virginia, it was like mediocrity was perfect. And it drove me bananas because everyone was so happy with dying at 35 or 40 or 50 and being 58% body fat percent. So nobody's going to do it for you. It is doable. I've seen people who have made amazing changes at all ages to be better. And the reason why we do this, final thought. See, we don't be healthy for its own sake. We don't be well for its own sake. We be well so that everything else that we do at a higher level. Whether it's being with our friends or working on a paper or playing football or whatever it is. We be well so that that foundation is laid so that everything else we do happens at a higher level. That's why we do it. But knowing how to do it is what we're about this semester. So, talked way too much. Thanks, everyone. We'll start on whenever we meet next time with the first steps. So, have a great day, everyone. We'll see you.